like to call this meeting to order pursuant MGL Chapter 30A, Section 20, informing all attendees that a video and audio recording is being made of this meeting. First up.
Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry to interrupt. Could I just raise a point of order? Since we're doing this by Zoom, I wonder if we could have everyone who's not on the board identify themselves by name, because I can't really tell from some of the whatever they are symbols that are on the Zoom.
I will.
Okay.
I'll go down the list and read everybody that's in attendance at this moment. We have. Let's see. Brian Connolly, Kathy Hall, Kathy Doust, Harry.
Last name?
Harry, if you can tell us your last name or type it in.
Okay, I'm sorry, I was on mute. Kastronakis.
Okay, we have Harry Kastronakis.
Yeah.
Claire Leahy. Chris M. Chris, can you give us your last name for the record?
You're muted, sir.
Yeah, I understand that. I was asked to be on mute. Now I'm off. I'm driving a car,
Yeah.
so bear with me. Last name is McCarthy.
Thank you
Gotcha.
very
Thank you.
much. We have a person that's going by AABOA,
Yeah, that should be Mike Price.
Mike Price.
Yeah.
Okay, and then
That's-
we have the board members, and we also have Patty Carlino just joined. And that's everybody for now.
Is Mike Price with an I or a Y?
I'm sorry, it's P-R-E-I-H-S. I should have spelled that.
P-R-E-I. Thank you.
Mhm.
And also, I don't know if you can hear me. This is Brian Connolly at 45 Erskine Drive.
Okay. Yes, we do hear that. First up,
Right.
I did not see any sign. We have sign permits on here. I did not see any sign permits. So we'll go right into reopening the public hearing on our zoning changes. And this has to do with, we finally got the letter back from the consultant that did our 360 code. And it's pretty extensive and very well done. I was gonna try to propose as far as the administrative stuff that needs to be changed there, to see if we could get Beth to do it instead of taking it upon the board to do, i.e. Peter, to do all that. Does that sound good? I've not been able to speak with her yet though, but I think that should be within her skill set to be able to do. Peter?
Sounds great to me. I think the task is to make sure that the votes that we took on the 96 or whatever it was, the number of items that they initially submitted to us, have all been reflected in the document that they sent us for presentation to the town. So it's just a proofreading and cross-checking exercise, but it's a big job.
It
And
is.
I agree that if Beth can do it, I think it would be appropriate to ask her.
What would she be doing exactly? How do you mean?
Well, what did we have, 90 plus items?
Yeah.
And in every one of those, we made a recommendation about either change or no change to the existing bylaw. I think about half of them probably were no change, but let's say there's 40 or 50 that we did want to see change. In some of them, we wrote out, just do, option one. And some of them we wrote out, no, we don't like any of your options. We'd like you to do the following things. And just to verify that they did those correctly in the draft that they submitted to us, that they accurately transcribed our intent of our votes.
Okay.
I mean, I'm pretty sure it should all be fine.
Yeah,
as we
it
went
should.
through.
They're pretty careful. There's no question.
Yeah. Any other issues on the ongoing zoning changes? I was just looking them over and myself, and After watching the last selectmen's meeting, I don't know how it's gonna work. I think it's gonna be ugly, but we're gonna go forward.
Well, I don't think that has a bearing on our
No, it doesn't.
work. So we just do what we do
Yeah,
and let it play out. Are we gonna go through, start tonight, going through what was presented? Or how are we
are
doing?
we, I mean, do we really need to? I mean, we've gone through it. I mean, 100 and some changes. Are we going back through them again? Is that what you?
I didn't know, should we like just go down, the final draft of, yeah, I mean, I just didn't know how you wanted to do it. Are we voting on it tonight? All of them, or?
I don't think yet.
No, I hope not, because we have to
No.
verify that they did it correctly. And then I suppose once Beth says, yeah, they did it correctly, then I suppose we could reconsider some of our votes if we wanted to. But I think we've already voted the Code 360 bunch. And I think we could let it rest on that unless we want to bring it up again. I do think we probably should at some point talk about the other half of the proposals, the ones that we draft.
Oh, you cut out a little bit.
About the animal.
Yeah, he's breaking up. My question was, do we want to review those
Oh.
bylaws, our site plan, our animal bylaw, or are we saying that all we're doing now is once Beth's done checking the general code, we're just gonna vote on everything? Is that what you're saying?
Well,
I think so.
Okay,
I'd like to have the chance to talk about the half that we wrote ourselves. Because I found one technical error today, and there's an issue around the animals that I think I need to report to you about. And there may be
Okay.
other issues in there too. But Peg has her hand up, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
yeah, I was waiting for.
Oh, okay, go ahead,
Go ahead,
Peg.
Peg.
Thank you. Maybe if we got a final draft, we could read it over before our next meeting. And then, as you said, Peter, you found something that wasn't, that you'd like to talk about. So maybe we could get a final draft, look it over before the meeting, and then see how we feel. Because I do feel we've got to the time is going forward now. And the months do go by much quicker than much quicker than usual. And so I think we really do need to make some final decisions on all of this. We've worked on it for quite a long time and put a lot of time into it. Peter writing them and us talking about them and discussing them. And so I think it's getting near the finish line, I hope. Thank you.
Dave Forrest has got his hand up.
Dave, go ahead.
Yeah, I think we ought to let Beth go through this if she will. And make any corrections and note corrections. And then if we're going to discuss this, we're going to have to discuss it at a meeting that's going to probably just be on Code 360. Because we're going to spend a lot of time on it.
Okay,
I think we're kind of confused between two different things here. The Code 360 part and the homegrown part.
Right.
yeah, because the 360 was all those changes that we went through. Go ahead, Peg.
No, I was going to agree, I think, with Peter that we are somewhat confused. Or the 360s one section, the zoning changes in the bylaw are another section. So I think we do have to figure out how we want to do this with these sections. I think Beth's idea, Beth is, if she's willing to do it, I'm thrilled with that. The zoning bylaws, we probably should have a final draft of those, read them before we come to the meeting and then discuss them. As Peter said, he did find one technical error that he wanted to talk about. So
These,
those are my thoughts. Thanks.
most have all been resolved. The
Right.
only reason this has been kept on going because we were waiting from the consultant about the code 360. So,
And, sorry,
and what?
no, and if people wanted to come and voice
Yeah,
their
We were-
opinion on different issues,
we were
we
hoping.
certainly, we have tried, to get the public input. I think that's important to be said. So,
The public hearing is open right now, so if the public does want to weigh on any of our bylaws, they can, just raise your hand and we'll call on you.
Yep.
And other than that, we have last week in our packet, didn't we have our bylaws? I mean, we can go back and look at the bylaws that we worked on and read them. If Peter's only got a small change, we can change that before we vote. So the proposed bylaws are also on the website. So I mean,
right.
they're done except for if anyone notices, like Peter mentioned, so a little error. So other than that, we're ready to go, except for the code 360, like you said. So
I
I don't know if it was
looking.
last week's packet or not.
Well, I have a
Well,
copy,
there's some of it's in there, but not all of it.
right?
But it's on the website.
The code 360, yeah.
And,
So I
and,
think-
and our proposed bylaws are on the website that we're actually going to be voting on. So we have a couple citizens in the public that want
Yep, I
to have
see.
their
I
hands
think
raised. So
I saw Kathy Hall first. Go ahead, Kathy.
Hi, I just had a question about the animals. Was that also part of that conversation about the roosters?
Yes,
Okay, because I'm really concerned about free ranging, is that the word I want, of
Yep.
roosters. I'm really nervous because they are very aggressive. I'm concerned about little kids riding their bikes or even big kids. Them coming out and attacking. So that's my 2 cents worth, that I would definitely be against having free range roosters in Lee. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, do you want to address that?
Yeah, well, in the proposed bylaw, in the backyard poultry kind of is what this would be. On small lots, the roosters would not be allowed. They would only be allowed if somebody had a full large agricultural setup,
Correct.
which this bylaw does not address in any way. That's a right to farm. That's beyond this.
Right.
Okay,
Okay.
Claire?
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Hi, I've looked at the website and I know the town code, and are the zoning laws the same as the town code?
Under planning board, I believe there's a couple tabs of proposed zoning changes.
Claire, I interpreted the question differently than the way Buck did it.
Okay.
The way I interpreted it was, you're asking, are they different documents or different books? No, that the zoning bylaw is part of the town's overall code. And the website, Code 360 website that the town has on its website that you can link to, shows everything, includes personnel policies and fees and promises that we made to various people over the years in the form of policies, and about half of it is zoning. Does that answer your question, Claire?
So right now, the zoning laws are incorporated, are part of the town code. Is that correct?
Correct.
what
That's
you
right,
call them,
yeah.
Zoning laws, and now they'll be in a separate document then? It's going to be this 360 code? I know.
No, here's what happened. Mr. Chairman, if you don't mind, I'll try to.
Go
explain.
ahead, Peter. You,
Okay, so Claire, what happened is we've been working for a number of years, 5 or 6, on a variety of amendments to the zoning bylaw, which is part of the town code. And then as we got about halfway through it, the town on its own initiated, I think through Chris Britton, a separate project to hire a company to reduce all of the entire code to a long document that's available on a website. And the company that does that is called Code 360. And then the town also simultaneously decided, or soon after, decided that it wanted to accept a bid from Code 360 to have one of their lawyers look at our zoning bylaw and see if there were any inconsistencies or vague provisions or poorly defined terms, that sort of thing, you know, just sort of lawyerish technical stuff. And the town hired them to do that. And then they went away and did that, and they came back with about 100 recommendations, slightly less. And we spent a good part of last winter reviewing their recommendations on those almost 100 things and came up with our opinion about what we wanted to propose to the town and what we rejected. Some of them we rejected, most of them we accepted, a few of them we altered a little bit. And so there's about 100 of those. And that's part of a document now that's on the town website. The other part of the document on the town website is about 20 or 30 pages of what I called homegrown proposals that we worked up ourselves on things like animals and special permits and site plan reviews, things that were problems that we found that we wanted to try to clarify and fix. So there's 2 halves of this huge document that's on the town website. There's the Code 360 part, which implements all of, at least supposedly implements all of the decisions we made last winter about their almost 100 recommendations. And then there's about 20 or 30 pages of homegrown stuff also that we wrote up ourselves. And that's all in one PDF available on the town website. And if everything gets adopted, then there'll be maybe several dozen changes to the town zoning bylaw. So I don't know if I've made that clear, but the proposal itself is huge. It's many, many pages, and it changes a lot of the provisions of the town bylaw, or it proposes to change them. Did you follow, Claire?
Yes, I am following what you're saying, and this helps a lot. So, but so what I'm seeing is the town code that's sitting there right now is probably going to be replaced by this Code 360.
Well, it's already been printed, so to speak, online by Code 360 company. And we have a large number of amendments to that code that we're proposing for the town to pass. And if those amendments pass, then the town code will be altered, and there'll be a different different text in the town code in many places. But it will still be printed and made available online by the Code 360 company.
Right, for the public to review before the
Yes.
town meeting.
Right,
So
right.
that they can review it. But Chris just mentioned that this is a public hearing right now, which I think it's important that people, well, they knew that this was going to be discussed because it was on your agenda, the zoning bylaw. So I was here tonight to just submit a couple things that I believe would be a part of it. And I just want to be sure that the scenic roads is still a part of the code that you're going to be proposing. And the fact that it is right now in chapter 246 in the town code, and the listing of the roads, scenic roads, which were submitted like 50 years ago in 1973, are in a separate chapter 146. And if this is going to be continued, and I don't see how it could be not continued unless there was a vote of the town meeting to take it out. I'd just like to see those two combined. And I was just going, not as part of this zoning hearing, but just to request that if that code is, the scenic road code is in there, I was going to request that the planning board do everything in their power to enforce the code that goes along with the scenic road chapter 246. So
Mr.
the
Chair?
listing has to be, it has to be clear to people that there are these 12 roads or so. And it would be really important to have it on this town maps so that we don't have cases that we've had recently where somebody comes along and does something on a scenic road where, because they're not aware of it, or homeowners need to be aware. So I'm just
Mr.
want to stress the
Yeah.
importance of that. Thank you.
Yeah,
Actually,
yeah, go
Claire,
ahead.
the Scenic Road Act it's really funny how it works. It's a town code that ends up in front of us, but it's not part of our zoning. And what we're talking about here is zoning.
We're discussing chapter 199.
Yeah.
Scenic Road Act is chapter 164. And we can work on that if that's needed with Claire's suggestion. I mean, that's something we could put on the list for our next list,
I
but
mean,
we're not.
she just
we're not
wants to
working.
make sure it doesn't go away, right, Claire?
Correct, but this helps a lot to say that you're working on chapter 199.
199, yeah,
And that's what you're changing, and
Yeah.
that's right.
and 360 is concerned with that. So that's what I was trying to clarify. Thank
And
you.
if you want to see the changes, if you go to the planning board section of the website under zoning amendments, and you click at proposed zoning amendments, let's see.
Yeah, I did start reading that. I'm aware that it's there.
I think you get to about page 23, and that's where the consultant, the code 360 kicks in with their small adjustments.
From what I saw, looking at it, if I can just continue for a second, is mostly it was about an overlay, using overlay districts in the future and making that more accessible. That's what it appeared to be to me. And so my thought about that is we need a lot more discussion on that in a public hearing.
I don't think you saw the correct thing.
Okay.
No.
Mr. Chairman, I can put it up for everybody to see if that would be helpful.
Yeah, go ahead. I have it on my other screen, so.
I'm disabled.
Matt?
Oh, hold on. Should be good now.
Can you see it? So this is what it looks like, Claire. There's, I think, 6 or 7 or 8 proposals in the beginning. Is this the document you found, Claire?
I'm just wondering, let's see. It could be, I'm not sure. I've been reading lots of documents lately, so.
Yes, so I'll just tell you just a minute, if the chairman allows me, I'll just.
Go ahead. Yep.
The question one is a clarification of the effect of the chapter 199 zoning bylaw. We're modeling it more closely to the provisions in Lennox. Chapter 2 is a technical correction to delete a lot of obsolete references to a zone that doesn't exist anymore. So we're just taking out cross references to that zone. Question 3 has to do with parking lots and parking garages. And that goes on for a few pages because it affects all the different zones. Question 4 is animals. It has to do with what was motivated originally by my desire, and I think a couple other board members, to try and authorize a little bit more animal husbandry in town. And that's where Kathy Hall was talking about the roosters issue. That's, I don't know if you can see, if I can point to it. I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, it's right in the middle.
You see my cursor moving around there?
Right.
Yeah, that's where the roosters issue comes in.
To 10. No
Right.
worries.
And then question 4 is, there's just coordinating changes here for a while. I won't spend time on that. Question 5 is, should we change the rules for non-conforming uses, structures, and lots? And we're proposing that in part because of changes in state law.
And our town council
And yeah, go ahead, Matt. Yeah.
and our town, the reason the non-conforming, we never had use in there. We just had structures or vice versa.
And question 6 is the similar question with regard to signs, about how much you can change a sign, whether you can repaint it or not. If you have to fix it, how much can you fix it? If it's a non-conforming sign before you have to make it comply. Question 7 is administration and enforcement of permits. And we're proposing that these are sign permits. We're proposing that the building commissioner be the one to decide on sign permits rather than this board, because the work is mainly routine and technical, and it doesn't really involve a lot of judgment. Question 8 is a long one, and it's a rewrite. This is the part that we've been working on for half a dozen years. It's a rewrite of the procedures for site plan review and special permits, and it goes on for quite a ways.
That's the area that I read, yeah.
Yeah, and it goes on for quite a ways on site plan, and then there's another section later.
Special
I'm
permit.
not even there yet. I'm still going.
Yeah.
I actually forgot this was in here, Peter.
Oh. Well, then maybe we should talk about it sometime before we vote. And then
Oh, I
Claire,
remember this.
the second part of it is this 13.4 special permits, which is pretty much, it's just clarified mainly. There are a few changes here or there to it. And that goes on for a long ways. We're up to page 19 already. And then I think the rest of it is pretty much routine. There's a correction to a table at the end. Oh, here's question 9. This is the overlay district. Oh, this is maybe what you saw, Claire.
Right.
There was a lot of-
Do you remember this one, Peter?
Yeah, when we defined what the overlay district was, we overlooked one of the lots. We left lot 65 out of the description.
Right.
So it's really a technical correction of an oversight, of a typing oversight. And then the last one, I think this is the last one, yeah. The last one, 10, is to establish a dimensional requirements for the CBC zone, which is for some reason unknown to us, missing from the table. So that's the first, that's what I call the homegrown part, Claire. And then now that was 22 pages. And now we start on the Code 360 stuff. And this is the material that they sent us and that we worked on. And you can see in 199-001, this is the first of 80 or 90 similar things. We picked the first option and blacked out this box. And so that's what Beth is going to check to make sure that they implemented this correctly. And this goes on, look at over here. I don't know if you can see my progress bar over here on the side, but I'm only about a third or a quarter of the way through the document. It goes on. The last page is 104.
All right.
So it's a lot to review. And it's a lot that you could comment on.
The key to mention on the editorial and legal analysis is that it's a lot of changes, but a lot of little changes, just to make our bylaws more cohesive, that the lawyers and the legal review picked up. There's not a lot of major changes in these, wouldn't you agree, Peter?
Yeah, like just the one I got on the screen now, it's a grammatical change to make the Historic Commission into the Historical Commission. Pretty small.
Hysterical Commission, historical. I'm sorry.
All right, I'm going to stop sharing if that's okay, unless
Yes.
you want to ask. ask about
Well-
one thing in particular.
I guess my biggest question would be, which ones were the ones that concerned you the most and that you spent the most time discussing, and why did it take you 5 years to come to terms? I understand.
That's a long story.
I understand the little details can take forever. Correct, that, Beth can go through and make sure that they're all correct. But there are some philosophical points here that I'm sure not everybody agreed on. And it would be interesting to know.
Yeah, I think that the part that we worked on the longest was this long section on site plan and special permit. And
Mhm.
I actually started work on that the 1 year or the 2 years that I was on the board before he was off for a year, and now I've been on for 3 years. So I think it may have been more like 6 that I've been working on this.
I'd say 2015, if I were to remember correctly.
Yeah. I started working on it with Sherman when he was on the board.
He was,
Yeah.
right. When we say we worked on it, it didn't really come to the end until the last about 3 years ago. And then in that time, every time we go to, bring these to town meeting, we've kind of been encouraged to trim it down and only do our essentials. So this one has always got pushed back.
And
Then the
we-
last few years with COVID, there was really nothing.
And then we were farther along on this part, and then along came the Code 360 proposal. And we said, well, let's put them together and make them move forward at the same speed. And so that slowed it down. And then COVID slowed it down some more. And so that's a long answer, Claire.
I understand that, yeah.
Peg's got her hand up, Mr. Chairman.
Peg?
Well, I was just going to say what, about the COVID when Buck was talking about it too. And we were instructed because of different things, the COVID in particular, that we do tone it down or don't do it this year, wait till next year. And so that's why it did take a very long time, but we were never really totally complete. And we've all been working on this, I'd say for 2 years. Definitely all of us have been working on it together as a group for at least 2 to 3 years. And there were some things, Claire, that were that we talked about and had different issues on. And we came to this as more or less a compromise on a couple of issues. So, I mean, we're all in agreement, we're all going forward, but there were some issues that caused more talk than others.
And I'm sure
Besides,
those would probably be the issues that would be of most concern to the general public also. But the fact that you have worked on these issues and discussed them as a commission and will be getting them out to everybody with your opinion is really great. And I understand COVID because we had the same thing going on with the youth commission putting together the open space plan over the past 5-6 years preceding that. And now we'll be starting the same thing. It's all held down with all the processes you have to go through. But I'm most concerned about the general public recognizing what the big changes are and how it might change our town, anything that may be changing the character of our town. And that's where I will read it, looking at it from that perspective. But as far as other people reading the length of this, I doubt that very few will. So it would be nice to be able to understand it a little better, what the issues are, what the big changes are.
mhm.
Thank you.
Peg? Yep,
Yes, thank you.
you're still there.
Sure. One thing that I kept questioning was the parking lots and a multiple story, not multiple, just a 1-story parking lot in the CDC. That was something that I was concerned about. And The other thing on the code, a lot of it, Claire, too, was grammatical. We didn't take the pronoun through the whole, say, 150 pages or things of that nature. A lot of it was really housekeeping, but you are right about the zoning bylaws. They are very, very important, and people in town, that's one of the reasons why we've held these meetings open for months. We continue the public hearing till the next day, and we have done that for a number of times. I was going to ask Beth when she comes back, how many times we've held these meetings open, because we have done that for the purpose of the town people to come in, look it over and ask questions. So thank you for your consideration.
And definitely thank you for coming tonight and voicing your concerns, because it's, I mean, you've seen the process. It's a whole lot better to talk about it now than to try to do it on the floor of town meeting, because there's not much you can do then, other than vote yes or no. Matt?
I was just gonna say, as to the zoning bylaws that we've worked on, none of them are really going to change the look of our town. They're all kind of things that we agreed that needed to be updated to conform with how we currently kind of help people who come in, applicants, like the site plan and special permit. So none of it was really going to change we didn't change any zoning areas. We didn't do that. We just did procedural items. And then I was just going to reiterate that the proposed bylaws are on the website. So I hope the public, I mean, it's boring stuff to read, really. But, if you're interested in it, it's on the website. And as Peg mentioned, we've had this open and we keep continuing the public hearing. We're going to probably continue it for another 2 months, maybe a month, at
I
least.
think so.
So, I mean, we've had ample amount of time for anyone to look, especially the homegrown, as Peter called them, the homegrown bylaws. If there's anything in there, I'd love to hear feedback from people. But I think we spent a lot of time on it, and I think what we did were positive changes to clarify a lot of things that weren't clarified. So, but we did not change any streets or zoning or anything like that. So, thank you.
Okay. While we're in here, Peter, there was a error you found?
Yes, I'll show my screen again.
Yeah, okay.
In the animals section, can you see the screen, Buck?
Oh, yeah.
Right down here,
Hear something?
right there in the middle of D, it says, not otherwise allowed as an agricultural use under the preceding subsection. I think what happened, that's not about agricultural use. The preceding subsection is C, which has to do with kennels. So what happened is, I think I probably at some point in my editing, I switched D and E. And E is now where the commercial agriculture stuff is. So it's not the preceding section. It should say the following subsection in D in the second line.
Or whichever way you want to fix it, either switch D and E or
oh
switch
yeah,
that line.
Okay, yeah, either one, yeah. That was it. And then I had another conversation with a member of the public about the animals section. I don't know if you want me to report on that or.
Oh, yeah, because it's going to come up again for sure.
Okay. There's more, I guess just to summarize, there's more talk about chickens, roosters, and poultry that we haven't fully resolved yet.
Yeah, poultry.
Shall I take this off the screen now?
Yeah, you can. I'm just looking, poultry definition is chicken, turkeys, ducks, geese. You know, there's been a ask about guinea hens, which I think they would fall, I think they're a breed of chicken. Let me see. Yeah.
Yeah, they're a fowl.
They're a fowl, yeah. So poultry.
Right.
I don't know. I think people are taking this that we're trying to prevent chickens versus how we really tried to do it was we were trying to protect the people that were doing the backyard poultry. So I don't know. I hope it works out. Anything else, Peter, you want to add on that?
No, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. All right, are we done with that? Any further? Oh, Claire.
I wish somebody else would ask questions, but
No, please, please. We are so grateful because I just know how this is going to go. It's going to come to baby town meeting or a special town meeting, and there's going to be a bazillion questions, and people aren't going to like it, and we're going to be sitting on this for another 2 years.
okay, so if I can be the devil's advocate then.
Go ahead.
I have read this over and it seems like there is an opportunity to allow overlays so that residential areas could be turned into higher density areas, cluster zoning. And I am asking you, I guess, is there a change in your permitting that would make this easier for a developer to come in and
We did not touch the cluster zoning part of the bylaw at all.
Where
And-
maybe
and
Claire,
is
maybe
it-
Claire can, excuse me, Claire, can you point out to where you're reading that? And then I think Peter could pull it up on the screen and make
No,
sure
I
every,
I can't
Yeah.
pull it up myself right now.
oh, okay.
It's one of the
But,
it's
I
one of the
do know-
sub-chapters. It's one of the sub-chapters in chapter 199.
I
But
do
we
know
haven't,
that
we
we
haven't
read
touched
that.
it, Claire.
We didn't touch it.
So that's been there all along.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm,
For any
mhm.
any developments like we have off of Stockbridge Road, that's condos, and like is up at the end of Walker Street for Lennox, it's going on now where you're allowing a density based on the number of acres as long as a certain amount of open space is left.
Yes, I remember when that got voted on. I think that goes back to the Martin Dealey days. When he was chair of the board. Wait, and that's,
Probably the 70s, that's when I first.
no, I remember it.
When we moved into a cluster development in Yorktown Heights, New York. I remember it very well.
Actually, I think the cluster zoning has a lot, there's a lot to it. Yeah, we
Right.
did not touch it at all. We didn't go into that section.
We haven't
So,
done it.
been-
We haven't done anything in regards to density requirements or anything like that. We strictly procedural.
so
The only thing we touched on was adding that one parcel, which was part of the 40R smart growth development overlay, which is Eagle Mill. There was
Right.
one tiny parcel that got left out of that list of, it was a typo. It got left out.
We approved it on the warrant correctly, but when
Yeah.
when the bylaw got typed up, it was missed.
So is it, will it be an addition of allowing more such CBC developments or?
Not at all.
Okay, and so you mentioned some change in the way that developers can come in for permits and maybe making things a little more streamlined and so on. Is any of this going to make changes that?
It's,
would
I think
prevent changes?
one of our goals, I'll give you an example, with the site plan. We tried to make it, right now, if you read our current site plan, the example we used was the Post Restaurant down on Railroad Street there. When she started that, she needed a site plan to take over that business. She read our bylaw and she went out and hired an engineer, paid an engineer a lot of money, and came into us with a plan that was correct for our bylaw, but it was too bad because it was way too much. And for small things like that, we've broken it into small or minor site plans and major site plans. So it makes the homeowner, a small property owner, a small business, makes it easier for them to establish their use.
Right.
And then as far as a major site plan, a major developer, anything like that is still pretty much the same as what we have now, with actually a few more regulations in there. But our big goal here was to help out the smaller site plans and streamline that a little bit, get them in and out legally. Does that help?
And I saw that, and I don't think that would cause any problems. If I'm being the devil's advocate, I wouldn't have a problem with that. I guess, and as long as there's no big changes in subdivision laws, I said that's another whole part of the zoning code, and that's not being changed.
We didn't touch subdivision laws at all.
Okay.
Claire, could I clarify just something I'm not sure came across exactly right? The flexible development subchapter in our zoning bylaw is subchapter 11, and it authorizes a density bonus under certain circumstances. I think that's what you're talking about as cluster zoning. And we did not propose any changes to subchapter 11, but I wasn't sure what your question exactly was. It could be that someone who last week could have come in and made a cluster zoning proposal would make that same proposal year after our changes are adopted. And it would be exactly the same bylaw that would apply to them in either case, before or after, without any change to the rules or regulations that apply to them. So it doesn't prevent future cluster zoning, future cluster developments. It just leaves alone the existing law on cluster developments. Got it?
Got it. So if somebody in the general public wanted to see some tightening up of cluster zoning laws, such as the type of open space that's left open, often it's all wetlands and land that wasn't going to be buildable in the first place, and that some land will be left it can be used for active recreation, such as playgrounds and so on. This is what I ran into in the past, that the planning board where I lived before was actually not worried about what was set aside as long as enough acreage was set aside. And it didn't matter whether, well, the Conservation Commission was all over it. They wanted to be sure that their lands were protected. And I happened to be on the Parks and Rec Commission, so I was really concerned that there wasn't the 10% being saved, which our town did have a law about, that at least 10% of that land should be active. So that would be just something that somebody might want to propose as a way of and how would we go about that if we wanted to?
Well, I think it's up to the board to decide this, but I'm pretty sure what we would say is, come on in and bring us a proposal. I mean, you can even read in state law that people can even make proposals to change zoning without even involving the planning board. We have to review it, but people can
Right.
bring in their own proposals. But I think the better thing would be to come and talk to us about where you see the deficiencies.
Right.
We believe it or not, we are so far behind on getting the town vote on this that there's still another third batch of stuff we didn't even talk about tonight, of things that we've thought maybe we might want to do also. So if you want to join in that batch, come and talk to us, or talk to me if you can't get on the agenda.
Well, I think the more people you have understanding this, and they'll be able to back you and get this through the town meeting if it comes to that.
I encourage them to sit in, and
Yeah.
I remember when that cluster zoning
Right.
bylaw got enacted, and I don't think anybody has applied under that yet.
Really?
No, there's not been an application. The only ones that we've had, I don't even think, the one off Fairview Street there, Fox Run, that's our latest regular development, and that was not part of it. So that was a standard development.
What about the one off Stockbridge Road across from Peter Naventi?
Though that's a standard development.
It
Yeah.
is.
Yep,
Mhm.
where that is zoned for. Yeah.
And-
Peg?
Yeah, I was gonna say, Claire, I think cluster zoning too, I remember being at that meeting. And I remember John Graziano speaking in favor of it and explaining the view of it. He was the chairman, I think, at the finance committee at the time, but he was involved in other things as well. And I think it's been, it was proposed, maybe originally, maybe it's changed, but to save space, or maybe put some houses or buildings together, but save some open space
Exactly. Right.
for different activities. And I think it's, I'll reread it myself now that you brought it up, but it did sound like, I mean, they have done this in various places. In fact, I even think on Via Maria, when that, or up near where you live, Matt, up in that area, the corner lot was supposed to be for a playground, and it's still vacant. And, or they said, leave one lot open when that whole development came in, and that lot is still vacant. So,
And that's where you need to make it up to the developer that they will take part of.
yes,
Be part
yeah,
of it.
and
But you need that
I think-
power.
I wouldn't
And
put
I-
that out there, Peg, because I really don't think that development was part of this.
well, maybe not that development, but there is on a corner lot there is an open lot. As
Absolutely.
you turn the corner there. And, well, you could ask somebody about that, but there were different things, maybe not Via Maria, probably got the wrong street, but it's up in that area. And the corner lot, I believe, or a lot near where the young people built the high school house there. Remember years ago when we used to have that wonderful activity where the young people would build a house and we'd all go see it, and then they'd sell the house. And it was just a wonderful program that we had, and it's near that particular part of the development. So there are things that can be done really well and leave some open space, which cluster zoning tries to do in some areas. Thanks.
It's actually much more environmental friendly.
Yes,
Zoning.
I agree.
There's definitely arguments, on both sides. So it's
Yes.
Because you get,
Studying.
when you get into the zones that require 3 acres to build on, then you end up gobbling up a lot of land
absolutely
to put just a few houses,
right.
and yeah, that's difficult. That's tough.
Nice balance that you can have, I think.
Somewhere in there, there's a balance for sure.
Yeah.
Okay,
Thank you.
anyone
folks.
else? Comments on this?
Come on. You
This
people
time-
out there, speak up. Kathy. Patty,
We went to our meeting, the youth commission's meeting.
this is your chance.
Yeah, they went on to the other meeting.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to continue close the public
Thank you.
hearing and continue
you.
it to January 24th at 6 o'clock.
I'll second the motion.
All in favor? Roll call vote. Peter? Aye. Peter says aye. Dave Forrest,
Aye.
Peg Byron,
Aye.
Matt Carlino,
Aye.
Buck Donovan, aye. It's continued. Okay. Next up, Erskine Drive. I believe. Do we have a representative here that wants to talk about this? I'm not sure how much it's gonna have to do with the planning board, but we'll listen.
Hi, can everybody hear me?
Yep.
Hi, I'm Harry Kastronakis. I'm one of the lot owners on Erskine. And I'm not sure, I'm here with 2 or 3 of my future neighbors. I'm not sure if you're familiar with the background on it at all.
Somewhat, maybe give us a quick, the Reader's Digest version, please.
Okay, I'll try. So it's a sister development with Pinnacle Way, right off Golden Hill. And the lots went up for sale. They've been up for sale for 3 or 4 years. My wife and I bought one of them. And the other people on the call tonight, I think about 3 or 4 of the others. And we were looking for some assistance from the town. I'm not sure if Chris Britton has forwarded my emails to you guys at all. I did look for your emails on the website. I couldn't find them. But it basically involves the utilities and the infrastructure and how it hasn't been completed.
Mm-hmm.
So the original plan and the original town documents that was accepted by the town in 2006 shows and on the large subdivision plan. Now, there's some confusion in going through a lot of the paperwork because the original Pinnacle Way called Erskine Park, and Erskine Park Drive, maybe another variation of that. And that was eventually changed to Pinnacle Way. And then when they developed the 18 acres around the corner, they submitted that to the town planning board under Erskine Park Drive, really Erskine Drive. So a lot of the documentation, the town records and the court records, they use that name Erskine, and you really have to dig in to see which development they're talking about. So we're on Erskine Drive, which is off Golden Hill, I guess, which is the north-south part of Golden Hill that goes into Lennox, or is originally called Lennoxdale Road, and it's 8-lot subdivision. When we bought the lots, they were marketed and sold as all the utilities are stubbed out there as per the town drawings, and that's not the case. So in talking to Chris Britton and having met with, I think I met with Don Fitzgerald, I met with Beth Mead, I believe it was.
Yeah, she's our land use assistant. Yeah.
Yeah, very nice. In early November, I went down there and she got me a copy of the original plan. And I had the other documents that the town requires when there's a subdivision project. And they have designations like C2. That's a certificate of approval and the requirements. So one of the things that Chris Britton and I discussed was that this development, when it was approved by the town in 2006, didn't require a bond for some reason. They just had the LLC have a guarantee, a performance guarantee through covenants. So they evidently had money problems, and in 2010 it was bought by Adam Hirsch, who's based out of Pittsfield originally, and he's in South Carolina now. And I think he did, this is June of 2010. So through the deeds, he inherited the requirements of the town listed when they approved the subdivision. And a lot of those requirements are, I would say it's your basic ones. It's basically electric, pavement, so forth. So when we started purchasing the lots, my wife and I closed late January, a year ago, a year now. And then the other one sold quickly after that, so within 6 months after that. When we started having contractors go out there, they basically said, where's the power? No power. So countless phone calls, Eversource, attempting to reach a developer, so forth. There's no power, and he hasn't put power in, but they were sold as stubbed out with power. And there's a lot of things listed on these requirements that the town approved that aren't done. So we want to get your take on that.
Okay, I see Dave Forrest has his hand up. He's also on the DPW board, so he might have some good insight here.
Okay.
Dave?
Hi, Dave.
We did have a discussion with the planning board. We're too bad Beth is not here tonight because she had a lot of information on just what Mr. Kasanakis is talking about. And there was a question of monies that was supposed to be put aside for the installation of utilities. Nobody seems to know anything about it. There was an electrician on record that I believe was from Pittsfield that was brought into this, but Beth has all this information. I think we could still, as a board, we could be enlightened a lot by having that information brought forward before we have a really formal discussion on this. DPW, the DPW, everything was put in place. I understand that conduits in, but no wire pull got through the conduits.
Or transformers.
Right.
Or
Transformer
proper
pads,
easement.
transformers, but.
And no easement. No
No
easement as
easement.
well.
Hold
The
on,
real
let's,
Wait a
hold
minute.
on
One
one
at a
second.
time, please.
Yeah, let's, everybody just mute and then raise your hand under the reactions button, and I'd be glad to.
Yep.
Reactions button, you can raise your hand and then I'll call on you. Go ahead, Dave.
Yeah, this discussion was brought to this board. And more information was sought, but we never discussed it again. So I think before we get too far into this, we have to have Beth on board and get all the information back into our hands. As I say, there was a lot of questions that were left unanswered. I guess somebody else can take over, but I think.
I'd just like to finish.
Hold on.
Yeah.
Hold on. Brian Connolly had his hand up. Brian, do you want to unmute yourself and go ahead?
Well, I was just had my hand up, Chris, to let you know Harry wished to continue. He didn't have his hand up, so.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, but I do ultimately want to follow up to Dave. 'cause
Sorry.
that's really good news.
I don't know if am I muted? I'm not muted, right? Am I muted?
No, Harry, under the reactions button, there's a raise your hand button.
Okay. Wait.
Just from now on, but go ahead, Harry. Go ahead. Brian's gonna allow you to finish.
Okay, I just want to, what we were really looking to do today is maybe get everybody on the same page of where we're at as of current status kind of thing with us as the lot owners. And because we've been trying to do some research. So where we are is that we're not sure exactly to what level besides the electric. And the reason we know the electric because we've been trying to do this since March, and we've been trying to build since March, and we've had contractors out there, and so there's no power. I mean, you can't have temporary power pole, you can't do anything. But as far as the other infrastructure, I asked Chris Britton was kind enough to send me a copy of a 2016 permit that was pulled by your Pittsfield electrician. His name is Matt Simony, and it had something to do with a connection for 8 lots at one of the lots, which was 55. Now, I'm not really sure what he did there, but there's obviously no wires. I mean, we've had the field engineer from Eversource out there 2 or 3 times, and it's difficult to get a hold of her. I think she's getting frustrated with us too also. There are no, I think it was Dave. Dave, you're correct. There's no wires. Allegedly, there's conduits, and there are no wires, and we're missing 4 transformers. It's a total bill of somewhere around 18,000 plus. But that's not the issue. The issue is that the developer originally, if we read the original documents, they had 12 months. Well, after you guys approved it, 12 months to complete it. Obviously, it's not done. But they did sell the lots with the statements that said that there is electrical at the curb, and there is not. So that's one issue. So we have transformers missing, and we have wiring from Golden Hill missing. We've been on this for 10 months. The other ones is we don't know the extent of, because Chris Britton didn't send me any other permits or inspections of the water main, because it is classified as a private way. You guys, when you approved it, you gave the okay for a private way. I think it was mostly based on the width of the street. So there was a water main that runs from Golden Hill. I don't know the status of it. I can't find anything that says it's there or where it is. And the other thing is the sewer is a forced main. It's actually coming from its sister development in Pinnacle, from their Golden Hill, up Pinnacle, through the cul-de-sac, through the back, down an easement, and allegedly to every lot. I don't know if that's the case because we don't have any inspections documentations and everything. We're just looking for some kind of paperwork that says what's supposed to be there is there. But I can't tell you, because a lot of the information that Beth has, I probably have. I can't tell you that my surveyor that went out there said there are no iron pins, there are no monuments on the radiuses of the street. So that's one thing, and that was specifically spelled out on your major residential, I have it right here, major residential definitive subdivision, SK design. So there's 3 or 4 large things, and I did send Chris a detailed email that I hoped he would have shared with you, because he did ask me to get something down definitively on paper. I did do that in early December. Basically lists really a large amount of infrastructure that we either don't know it's there or it hasn't been done. We were looking for some help from the planning board because the planning board, you guys are the ones who approved this, or your predecessors, and we're just looking for some communication or some official capacity letter or something to the developer that says, why haven't you done this? Like that is see hands up, so go ahead.
Peter, all right,
Go ahead.
thanks, Harry. Peter, unmute yourself.
I'm a little clearer than I was a minute ago when I put my hand up, but it seems to me that based on what I've heard so far, that as homeowners, as lot buyers, you 3 and perhaps others may have private claims against the sellers, against contractors, against the seller's ancestors, the prior sellers. That's none of our business, right? We agree on that, I think, right? No, we don't?
No,
I don't think so.
I don't agree with that.
You think it's partly we should be concerned about whether you sue your real estate developer?
Well, let me the tail part of that was, I don't think you should be concerned whether I sue it, but I think when the town accepted it and the way I read the document.
That's the part I'm getting to. I mean, I'm starting slow here.
Okay.
There's private claims possible between the parties. And from what I've heard, it doesn't sound like you're asking us to get involved in any lawsuit you might have against your seller. But you are asking us, it seems to me, two possibilities, and I want to clarify what they are. Early in your presentation, you talked about money being set aside. Are you hoping that somewhere in the town coffers, there's money that's set aside that could be used for this purpose? Or do you think that that's an unlikely possibility?
I don't think it's a possibility, Peter, because I've been communicating with the town for months. And they would have told me, and from what Chris Britton told me, there was no bond. And I think he did check with your attorney.
Okay.
It's under what's called, what he explained to me was a performance guarantee instead of a bond guarantee. And a performance guarantee is based on covenants. Basically, it's a promise that I will do this. And it's Form D1. We have that to Form D1. And it just concerns us because they made these promises to the town. And Adam Hirsch inherited these through the deeds when he purchased the land in 2010. He inherited these requirements because they run with the deed. So we're kind of wondering, once its development is under development, so to speak, are there procedures where the town sends inspectors out at stages? Because it does say in the plan, which is, I want to say it's 20, 30 pages, that inspections are going to be done at every step. So it's a street in the town, and I'm just wondering, we just need some documentation that certain things have been done, certain things have not been done. And I think that the town should be concerned if he sold the lots, moved to South Carolina, and nothing was done. If that's the case.
Yeah, so basically what you're mainly after is us to initiate an investigation about possible enforcement action against the original developer. Is that it? No, I see someone shaking his head no. Mr. Conley shaking his head.
Yeah. Go ahead, Harry. Harry, do you want to answer that? What Peter just asked? Or
yeah, Peter. I'm sorry. Can we back up? You said what we're looking for is.
What I thought I heard you say a minute before I started questioning you was
right.
You wanted some help from the town to try and get the original promises delivered.
Absolutely.
And so that would be some sort of an enforcement action against the original subdivider or his stand-in. That's what you're after? Is that right?
The current developer. Yeah, we'd like the town to look over the plan, because to us it's a self-interest. It's a street in the town, even though it's a private way, and say, this was done, this was not done, and communicate with the developer. Say, because you have no other recourse, Peter. You don't have any money. If he doesn't want to do it, you don't have the money to do it.
Right. We don't even have him. He's in South Carolina, right?
Well, for now he is, but my understanding is he's a developer in the Pittsfield area, and he's from the Berkshires.
Okay.
I'm originally from the Springfield area. I'm not familiar with the Berkshires, but he's not just somebody that's not in the area, and I'm not sure where his base of operations is. But it's concerning to us that, and I don't know if you would agree or not, that someone just comes really, and even though it was people that had sold it to him, present a residential subdivision plan to the town, sneak by on a performance guarantee based on covenants, sell the lots, and then say, oh, by the way, I don't know if I have to do this.
So the original subdivider's name was what, Mr. Kastrenakis?
The original subdivider was
the one who filed the plan.
Erskine Park LLC was the company name.
And then, but you're after an individual, right? Who's a developer?
My understanding from talking to some people is that they had money problems, and in 2010, June of 2010, they sold it to Adam Hirsch. They sold both developments to Adam Hirsch.
Okay. So thank you for answering my questions.
Sure.
Mr. Chairman, I don't know enough about this to really have an informed opinion, but it seems to me that if we're going to look into this at all, we should try to get a briefing from our building commissioner about what promises were made, what inspections were held, and what promises were broken. I mean, this is really an enforcement issue. If it concerns us at all, it's not something that I think we should be trying to collect facts on. I think it should be the enforcement people informing us of what they think
Agreed.
the situation is.
And I'm not even sure if there's no zoning or building, it's almost might be a civil thing at this point. Because
Well,
we're here to approve things.
From the sounds of it, it's going to be lawsuits all the way around, but I think he's within his rights, I think, to ask us to take seriously the promises that were apparently, or at least he alleges, were made to the town and see whether they were violated, and if so, what consequences we think are appropriate. I mean, we have a subdivision regulation, which we don't deal with from one year to the next, but it's still part of the town regulations. And it's something that if it's been violated, I think it's probably our jurisdiction to look into it. See if at the very least, to see how the regulations should change in the future so that this doesn't happen again.
Yeah.
But I don't know if we have the right or the interest to initiate any sort of enforcement, but I'm certainly curious about how this could ever happen.
And one of the, Peter, one of the reasons that we're, thank you for the venue to introduce what's going on. But one of the reasons is, it was really flagged by the lack of electricity, and we're really not happy about the fact that it was represented to us through the realtor, through the descriptions, as there was electricity at the curb, and there's definitely not electricity at the curb. And we've been trying to get a hold of this guy since March, and Chris McCarthy has made some progress, we believe, but very similar progress to the progress that we had in March and April.
Do you have counsel? Do you have counsel working on this?
No, not yet. We don't. We've fielded 3 different attorneys. We don't have enough information yet. We need documentation. I think that certain things were not done aside from the electrical. The electrical is key because we can't build.
Yeah.
And
I just speaking as an individual, I strongly recommend that you get counsel, because I think you have private rights of action here that you've implied. When somebody tells you there's something going on and there's something on your lot and it isn't there, and then you buy, there's a possibility of a private right of action.
Could I give a chance to a couple of others? They may be able to inform you on their aspects of their efforts.
Yeah,
I don't know if we're interested in that really, but
could we get Dave first?
Well, yeah, I was just waiting for that conversation to finish up. Dave has been waiting. He had his hand up, and then after Dave, we'll go to Mr. Connolly. But
Yes,
Dave,
sir.
go ahead.
From what I remember of this, I think the biggest stickler for you, this Harry brought up, it's a private way. As far as the Board of Public Works, we have town-owned utilities, which is water and sewer. And the sewer line, I remember when it went in, was a forced main, and the town's only responsibility with that is to check it when they tie it into the main that's down on Laurel Street. The water, there's water, the high-pressure main runs up Golden Hill Road, not the extension, but Golden Hill Road. Again, the water lines, if you bring it in, the contractor, a builder has to bring it into the site, and then the town's responsible to inspect that it's done properly. It's all because it's a private way. The private way slips through a lot of fingers. To have the road accepted, again, the Board of Public Works looks at the size of the road, the width of it, decides to whether they're going to accept it or not. And until the Board of Public Works accepts it, the road stays private. All maintenance is done private. So it's a stickler on this one. To me, it all points back to the developer. If you can shake them out of the bushes, I think that's the best route to go. I guess I'll let Brian take over from there.
Go ahead, Mr. Connolly. Just unmute yourself, and you're good to go.
Okay, everybody can hear me?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Great. First of all, I just wanted to say, my wife and I, we purchased 45 Erskine formerly known as Lot 2. And we're very excited. We've lived in Massachusetts our whole life, and we're very excited to hopefully spend the rest of our time out there in Lee. So just to put a positive spin, we are very excited to be moving out to Lee and joining that community. So a couple of things. I think the civil lawsuit, to what Peter said, is probably going to be in our future. But I think our primary goal right now is we have contractors, developers that we want to start to build. So a civil lawsuit, as all of you know, is going to take years. So our primary mission right now is to try to work with the town to get answers to certain questions. Dave, you brought up one point about the water main. Was it inspected? Has it been run to the front of each of the properties? It sounds like that's something the town would have done. We've looked for that paperwork, so maybe we can work with you to confirm that the water main is in, so our contractors, again, don't get surprised by there's no pipes. So we're looking for that documentation. That's one thing. And the same thing with the force main for the sewer. We're making the assumptions that the town, to verify the site plan, did certain numbers of inspections. We're just looking to work with you to verify that. Because right now, my builder's going to start in April. I can't tell them I don't know and start building. And to your point, Dave, at a minimum, you would have done inspections to verify the work was there. So we would love to be able to get that information. And then the other urgency is really the electricity. So the easement and the payment of the transformers. And that is where I think, Peter, you made up the point where any leverage you can help us with to get the developer to work on that in a timely manner would be beneficial to us. So we know a civil lawsuit is going to be in the works down the road. But the immediacy of really those three items is to help us to get the easement and to get the developer to know that the town is at this point watching him and maybe can help with some of that. And then the other one, to Dave's point, is verification that the town did follow their procedures and show us the inspection so we can go and build, knowing when we go to connect to the water main, it's there. Knowing when we have to connect to the force main for the sewer, it's there. And in worst case, it's not there. I'd rather know that now so I can plan for it. So I know I just said a lot and really fast, but we're really looking to engage with you. Civil suits are down the road, but it's really to get those particular items done and whatever help the town can provide, to 8 new property owners in Lee, and we're all very happy to be there. That's really one of the main things that we're hoping, and that might mean additional meetings. That might mean Zoom calls to go over papers and materials. We're hoping that maybe Chris is the conduit to schedule that, or if he wants to assign that to somebody else, that's wonderful. But to start getting some of that paperwork done and start solving some of these riddles. So that's all I have for now. Thank you.
Thank
All
you.
right. Thanks,
Dave?
Mr. Conlon. Yeah.
Yeah, again, with development, a private development, the Board of Public Works only comes up and inspects, say if you win it today and you find out there is water there. My guess there is not water on that site. You'd have to check with the superintendent of public works. You're gonna have to give him dates because we've changed them a couple times. I've been on the board a long time, and I do not remember any water line purchase. The developer usually puts the water line into the development. He runs stubs up to the property. All we do is inspect the initial tie-in. That's going to be would be to the water main that's out on Golden Hill Road, and then the whole line with the contract or the developer would have his own construction crew and an inspector on site. We don't check anything when it's in the development. We're responsible for just when you tie in to the town-owned utilities. The sewer, that was private, as I said before. The only time we checked that, and the only time we had to check it, is when we tied in at Laurel Street to make sure that the tie-in was done properly to the town main. I remember they did have, when they put this thing up, they had a contractor and they had an engineer on site. Who that engineer was, That I do not remember. But to say, when you get to a private development, the town doesn't have much to say until they request it to be accepted as a town road.
Okay, Brian?
Thank you, Dave. So any inspections for those tie-ins, that would be useful to know that at least something was tied in. How do we follow up on that?
Well, as I say, when the when the tie-in was made for the sewer, I don't even remember it. It was originally for the original development.
How
don't
do we
remember
verify
coming-
that?
Pardon me?
How do we
Uh,
verify that?
DPW?
That could be verified through the superintendent, the town highway superintendent. But I said, you're gonna have to give them dates, and they're gonna have to do some searching to see what they have, if anything, for that development in that time span.
So how do we go about doing that? Do you have a contact that we should work with? It
Well, Al's-
seems to me we're
Al's
not getting
Zerbato.
a good path.
El Zerbato is right now the highway superintendent.
And it
And
would probably be more useful to have maybe an email between the planning board saying why we're reaching out. Is that something we can get? Versus us calling El Zerbato blindly and saying,
Al has, you can call the office, I believe his number is 243-5520. That'll get you to his secretary.
He would be the one that would have those tie-in documents if they're obtainable. But if you have any dates, would be very helpful if you're looking for those.
Correct.
so is it Buck? So Buck, what
Yeah.
dates? First, remember, I purchased my property in May. I don't have the history. The history I know is by going on Mass Deeds and looking it up. I would expect the town would know, when was the request came in. I would think these would be town records.
Well, so I said, the problem is when you get it's just a private sewer on a private road, everything's private until
I
that's
understand
town
that, but
accepted.
the tie-in and the town acceptance, we're looking for verification that was even done. I
The
understand that
tie-in-
you're saying from that point on, you're saying you can't verify, but I'm just looking for town records that says a request was coming to tie it in. It was tied in. Here's when it was inspected. You're good to go. Like even that would be helpful, to be honest.
Okay, well, as I say, I think if you give him a date, a range of dates from when the original development was started, because that went in before the first house was even started to build, the sewer line was put in. And I believe the water was brought off of just to that first house without a water line. It was a private water line to the house. But the sewer line was made for future expansion.
Right.
And if you can come up with a date when that first development came through, or through the building inspector again, because the building inspector had to do inspections on the first house, it'll give us at least a date to shoot at to try to find the information. I know it was inspected when they tied into that first.
Okay, so I'm going to turn it over to Chris, but no houses have yet been built yet, Dave. And
There's none.
the other thing that no houses have yet been built. That's the holdup. There's no infrastructure. We can't build a house. Even though the site plan that's town approved said that this infrastructure must be in place.
It
For
needs to be
whatever
certain-
release
It needs to be in
plans,
place for us to accept it at the end.
can you define the end, Buck?
When the covenant's released,
So when a lot is allowed to be sold?
when it's released to, and a CO is issued and all that.
I'm lost. So in other words, we would have to have our houses built and connected before a release? Can you clarify that?
I don't think, you know what, with how this tone's going, I'm not gonna speak on any of it.
Okay, I'm just unclear. I don't know how this works. I'm an amateur at this.
Can I jump in?
Yep.
Sorry. We've been trying to, we've just been trying to do this. This isn't anything. We need your help in this, Buck. I think as far as the street, just to touch bases with, I think it was Dave. Dave, the street's never going to be public because they wrote it in there when it was approved. Wrote it in there that it was allowed to be less than what's publicly accepted. There was a regular street is like 24 feet or something. This one's only 20 feet. So the street's always going to remain private. So it is what it is, as far as that goes. But there's very good information about superintendent. I can make those calls over there because when we originally started looking into it, we originally got the plans, and Chris McCarthy, actually, he's on today, and I know he's been sitting there. He actually got the plans for Tri-Town. I think that because they service Lenox and Lee. Is that right?
Yep.
So I think one of the things we were looking for is that, you know, they have those towns. So, you know, and I hope I'm not being repetitive. You know, we just want to know if the work was done. So I don't know if they would have like a date of construction. Maybe we can look it up, and I can go back through some of the paperwork and see, because it is confusing. I mean, the way they interchanged the Erskine Park name is very confusing, very, very confusing. And I don't know if it's going to take a while to go through it. But as far as the other stuff goes, as far as the other utilities go, you know, the big one is the electric, I think. And Chris, if we could give Chris McCarthy a chance to speak, he's been dealing over the last, I think, several weeks with a last-ditch effort with the developer. And maybe if you guys hear what he has to
Chris.
say.
Yeah, go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, great. Thank you, Harry, for that excellent summary, and everyone else for weighing in. As far as the installation of the electrical service with Eversource, we learned late in the game that the easement that is referenced in my deed did not exist at all. I think it may have been a reference to the original easement up on Pinnacle Way. So I was sold a property and a deed that makes reference to an easement that's in place. And we are now kind of scrambling. I've been working with Adam Hirsch and others since March. And it's really been about the last 2 months where Adam again makes assertions that he supports going forward, but nothing's moving quickly. I will say, I hope and expect to be successful, but there is some urgency with owners who have projects on schedule. So that's where we are on the Eversource easement. I think the easement modified and completed is handed off to Eversource at this point. I tried to confirm that with Rich O'Brien, who's the attorney, on Friday, and I haven't yet gotten confirmation. So it's somewhere between the attorney and Eversource. So I think that's going to go forward. I just wanted to say something a bit about the inspections and it being a private development. In the analogy may not apply, but I built a house, a 3-family here in Boston, and there's nothing, it's a private piece of land, a private project, and I only tie into the city at the end of that project. But everything we built within this house, all of the electrical, the plumbing, the fire suppression, everything gets inspected along the way to ensure that it's being done properly, fire blocking. And thank God it was done. And it's just, I'm surprised to hear that the practice here is only to inspect and approve when you tie in at the street, at the main street, because there's a lot of infrastructure there that I'd like to know was done properly.
Well, what you're describing there is basic building code. And that there might be hillbillies, but we still do that. Don't worry.
Yeah, no, I'm sure you do. And so when we've reached out and asked for these confirmation of inspections having been completed and done properly, I think we've been told that they can't find them or they don't exist. Harry, I think you have a better sense of what the response to that question was.
I think if I could jump in.
Yeah.
I think because of the transition in the original development, and the problems that the LLC had, which was two local women that I think they lived on Golden Hill. They presented it, I think, with their money problems and their eventual sale to June 2010 to Hirsch. I think a lot of things were just, and again, you had the bank crisis right at that time, and I'm sure that had something to do with it. I think the timing, the social environment, everything, and it was basically just left alone. And then when he bought it, the current developer bought it, he from just going from court documents, he was looking to either continue infrastructure or improve it. Because it's my understanding when the realtor had him on sale for I think 3 years, that people would go look at the lots because a lot of people want to live there. We want to live there. And they would bail out because there was no definitive time frame for the infrastructure to get put in or finished. I think one of the terms she used was, I could have sold those lots, twice over, or times over. So it was, I think it was the circumstances and the timing, because if we look at the timing, everything that was involved, it was 06, the height of the housing bubble. Then it went to 07, 08, money problems. They had to sell in 2010. And then the new guy basically start to do something, and so there was a lot of mix-up, and we don't really know what happened. But I think overall, Chris, and I don't know if you gentlemen agree, I think if there's some help from the town, even just a couple of phone calls or something, that could just maybe monitor the development or see or inquire as to its current state, that would help us tremendously.
I think that's what I'm trying, I'm struggling with. I'm not sure what we really can do for you other than, send a letter of question, where are you at on this project?
Yeah, we'd love that. We anything you can do to help us out. And I want to stress that every contact we've had with you guys has been tremendous, from Chris Britton, me to Don Fitzgerald. It's always been tremendous to the phone calls.
And what was Don's take on it? What was Don's take on it?
He's pretty straightforward. And he basically said, we have a civil problem,
I think you do. Yes.
Yeah. Well, I probably do, but I was just kind of asking him. I think when I went upstairs, I was kind of trying to find out if he had any kind of a take on really where the town was going to go with it, and he sent me downstairs to meet with Beth, and Chris, I think, just walked in. He was running around. And I know you guys have had a very, there's a change in management, there's a new sole manager, everything. So there's a lot going on there. And Chris, he stayed there with me for, quite a little bit. And he basically said, look, I'm going to help you out. Any kind of documentation I can get you. And I said, yeah, that's great. That's what we need, I was really hoping, because the planning, because in the letter that I sent, Chris Britton, the email, I was hoping that the governing body would have a little bit more clout than us, because I don't want to tell you, we've been trying since March, and only now Chris McCarthy here is making a little bit of what we believe may be progress, but there's still nothing to show for it. There's no definitive action. We've had Eversource field engineer out there. We've had supposedly the developer's contractor out there. We've had that electrician that did that last permit at 55 Erskine, where he says he tied into something, but there's nothing to tie into. He was out there. Then after that, it's been a kind of a back and forth of, I thought you had this map. Oh, they have this map. Oh, I don't know who has this map.
Okay. Peter, you got something to add?
Yeah, I hope that these gentlemen and their families succeed in moving into Lee and become our neighbors. But I don't really know enough yet to really feel like I personally want to take a stand on this. I think that it sounds like there's been a lot of trouble, and maybe you guys were taken advantage of, maybe not. I haven't heard the other side of the story, but from the town's point of view, I think Dave was pretty close to right, if not completely right, that the town's interest in these subdivision regulations is to make sure that the town doesn't get stuck with, lighting systems that have to be replaced and sewer systems that fall apart and water systems that leak that we have to fix and roads that buckle because they didn't have enough underlayment. Those are the things that the subdivision regulations aim to prevent, is having the town hold the bag for a poor subdivision. Not so much to prevent the town from, or to require that a subdivision actually get carried out. It's if it gets carried out, we want to make sure that it doesn't cost the rest of the town a lot of money. That's usually the motivation behind a subdivision regulation. That said, I still am very interested in knowing more about what was promised and what was delivered. And if if the developer failed to do what he said he would do, I'd like to know in detail what he said he would, what was the XYZ of what he promised, and when was it not delivered, and what did we promise in the way of inspections, and XYZ of that, and what was done. So I'd really like to hear, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to hear from Mr. Fitzgerald at the next meeting, if he can report to us on whether the town has any interest in getting involved in this.
I think that sounds good. Where is Don? Don's down in Texas these days, I think, but he could still give us some information. I was sort of wondering if we could just, not a accusatory letter to the developer, just a inquisitive letter. This property has been idle for a while. What is your status, and how is it coming along?
Don't you want to know what was in the subdivision plan before you do that?
Well, we can see what's in that. That's on our.
I haven't seen it.
Yeah,
I haven't seen it yet.
Okay. All right, we could look at that. We'll have Beth pull that so we could look at it.
We appreciate it.
Yeah. Mr. McCarthy?
Yeah, I was just going to ask a question about inspections done, but I think if Don Fitzgerald is at the next meeting, he can probably answer it, but I'm not sure I understood the prior answer. It would be my understanding that when the trenches were dug along the easement for all 8 properties before, and when the infrastructure was laid, before those were filled, that the city of Lee came out and inspected all that work to make sure it's correctly done. I would hope you'd have those evidence of those inspections in your files. It may be that Don can help us find them. But is that the case? Before those trenches are closed, would Lee inspections go out and review the work and approve it was done properly?
Dave, got an answer?
Yes, they do.
Great.
But usually there's an engineer on site hired by the developer.
Yeah,
And he certifies.
Let's say, when if you make a tie into the main, and let's say they did it on Golden Hill Road, because that's where that main comes across. We would have town forces there, even if it was done by the contractor's subcontractor that was going to put the water lines in. We would inspect that he tapped into that main properly. The backfill was good. When it went up into the development, usually usually you have an engineer on site, or just to keep track of what's going on, what was installed, what wasn't installed. Those records would be with him.
But wouldn't the city of Lee have to confirm that what you're being told is in fact true?
That's why you have an inspector on site that is recognized by the town of Lee to do the job.
Okay, so we'd love to know, maybe Don knows who that inspector was and what the conclusions were. When all of that infrastructure was inspected before those trenches were closed, I'd like to know who inspected it. It's not particularly who inspected it. I'd like to know it was done properly before I tie into something.
I'm afraid Don is not going to be able to give you that answer because he's more in the building it. But Harry, I see Harry's waving at it there, so.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I want to clarify, when I met with Don Fitzgerald, he made it pretty, clear that he's the building inspector or commissioner, and he had very limited, I guess, purview, I guess is the right word, over some of the other work done. Because there's no structures there, and so I don't know if he seems like a person that would help us out, but I just want to I'd like the board to know that we know for a fact about the electricity that it is not completed because of our efforts over the last 9-10 months with actual people going out there and so forth. The other things, the forced main coming up from Pinnacle along the easement, we don't know where that ends. We don't know if it goes to each lot, because we just don't know. We don't know if the water is stubbed out. We don't know those two things. So I just want to make it clear that we're not saying it's not there. We don't know. We don't have any evidence that it is there. But I will
Are
tell
you having
the
any luck or do you have any luck communicating with the developer?
Well, Chris McCarthy is the latest effort. The effort started with Mike Price 10 months ago, which basically said, "Oh yeah, we're working on it," and then the months pass, and there's been quite a few attempts, back and forth. But Chris McCarthy is the latest to try to deal with him to at least get an easement filed, so that because EverSource will not run the wires and transformers without an easement. So we need the easement recorded and we need the wires run. So Chris can probably speak better to that, his efforts of the last 6 or 7 weeks, and we're waiting something for that. But I had one other point. I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman. I had something to say, but I just wanted to make it a little bit clearer that we do know that there is no viable power there, and we've heard that the conduits are run, and the concrete bases are in for the transformers, but there's no transformers, obviously, because you need wires for transformers. Well, we're concerned about the sewer, we're concerned about the water, and we're concerned about any markings the town required. But I do want to ask, if I may, if you recall, I don't know how long you gentlemen have been on the board, but 2 years ago, they went in front of you. Read that. They went in front of you and they asked for a release of covenants for lot 1. And it was approved. In that document, they made a statement that says all roadway and infrastructure work has been completed to service the approved lots.
Chris, where is lot 1?
Whereabouts is it? It's on the corner of Golden Hill and Erskine. It's that narrow front lot that I've purchased.
So it,
Date, Mr. Chairman, if you like it.
it's Connolly, Brian, it's owned by you now, Brian, correct?
No, McCarthy.
No, McCarthy.
Yeah, Chris McCarthy bought 25 Erskine. That's lot 1.
Who signed that letter, Harry?
Yeah, we did.
SK Design Group, Mark Sokol. And then the majority, it says the majority of planning board.
Right.
I think I remember this. Yeah,
I do.
there's my signature, in fact. Yeah.
Yes, we signed that letter and we had quite a debate over it, as I recall. So we need that information from Beth.
So we had a letter that says everything's in, and you're here today to say nothing's in.
Correct.
And we had the letter from Sokol, who's an engineer?
They're the original drawers, I think, that did this.
SK Design.
Yeah.
We're just confused because when we dug this up, it rightfully says that everything's done except the final top coat, and we all know the final top coat, which is 1.5 inches. Again, there's no bond for that. That's put on after the majority of construction is done. It's what I understand.
Yeah.
So
Okay,
it
thank
says,
you.
except for that, all infrastructure work has been completed to service the approved lot. It says that right in here. So I think, and again, I think we were kind of, thinking that the best way, maybe if there could be some kind of an inquiry as to the status of the development, what's been completed, what has not been completed, Mr. Chairman, would that be the best bet for everybody?
Yeah. Mr. McCarthy, which lot do you own?
I own 25, which was referred to as Lot 1 in the real estate of the 8
Did you
lots.
buy it recently?
No, I bought it in January, last January.
From Girardi and Hayes, perhaps?
No, I bought it from Hirsch.
Oh, okay.
Hirsch owned all 8 of them.
Oh, you're 25. Gotcha. Okay, I see
Yeah.
now. So and that's part of this development, huh?
It is.
Okay.
It is. And I think the document Harry just showed us asserted that with that release, that everything was already completed, and that's just not true.
Yeah.
No, I don't know, because it's on the corner, Mr. Chairman, if they're referencing the main road, and that language is attributed to the main road.
Yeah. Because that's what the lot looks like. It looks like it's on the lot, not part of the subdevelopment.
However, the way it's narrated, someone could infer that they're trying to reference the 8-lot development in that statement.
Okay. I think we'd like to look into this. We'll have Beth get the original subdivision, and we'll get that document you have there, Harry.
Yes.
And with that's a huge deal right there, because there's got to be something we can do, because if there's no electric, there's no electric. Yes, I know it's a private development, but if they're lying to us, then seems like we should be able to get involved.
Can I ask one final question? If I remember right, this development started, the original development came off of Golden Hill. And then the second part came off of Golden Hill Extension. Which part are we talking about? Golden Hill Extension? Because that seems to have no houses on it.
Correct.
Yeah, I thought what is now called Pinnacle Way comes off of Golden Hill Road. The frontage on my property is Golden Hill. I think Pinnacle was completed first, and the 8-parcel Erskine Drive was sold secondarily. And as Harry was laying out, the substantial confusion between the two, understandably, over the years.
There's never been a connection actually between the two developments. The road does not connect the two.
No,
but
There was an
Well,
easement that runs through.
the reason I asked that is I believe the force main and the water line was brought into that original development. And we have to make sure we understand whether we're talking Golden Hill or Golden Hill Road, because I mean, the part that goes to Lenoxdale off of Golden Hill was always referred to as the extension. And that is that part that you're discussing that has no conduit or has no wiring in it. Does that come off of the piece that goes to Golden Hill? Because I'm thinking the utilities, the town utilities were brought into the original part. I don't know if they ever were extended up to the piece that the main entry is on the road that goes to Lenoxdale.
You're correct, Dave. Erskine Park is off of the Golden Hill extension heading towards Lenoxdale. And I do believe the water and sewer was brought up on Pinnacle. I don't know.
That's correct.
They're stating that it was brought in on Erskine. I mean,
There we
have-
go, guys.
We do have the,
Oh, there you go.
Here's what
We
we're
do-
talking about. Right here's Mr. McCarthy's.
Yep, and that's the one
Okay.
with the release.
That was the release.
Yeah,
but we were told by SK on that letter that Harry brought up that the
That
infrastructure.
all of it was done.
It was done. So they're an engineer company. So, you know,
We could find out what,
They-
what
they-
they meant by
yeah,
that.
they have to put their stamp on it. So we're, you know,
And here's Harry's place. Or no, up here, this one.
and,
Sorry.
and Pinnacle's down on the left, Buck, where the other
Yeah,
cul-de-sac
Pinnacle's
is.
down here. This
That's
is
right.
Pinnacle.
Yeah.
Okay,
Mhm.
So,
And
so
just,
what's that red line right there? Is that the easement that runs through?
yeah,
that what you
Mr.
think?
Mr. Chair,
It is,
Mr.
yeah.
Chairman,
yeah,
can I just add, okay, it's just to clarify that. So from Pinnacle, the easement, it goes north from Pinnacle alongside between those two lots you're pointing to. That's
red-
my understanding is that's for the forced main and the gas main.
okay.
That makes sense to me.
Yeah.
Water and power would come from the main road, Golden Hill,
So-
they have marked there.
There's no water line on Golden Hill. That's what
No.
I'm trying to tell
That,
you.
that doesn't make me feel good.
Right, the water line is on the road, and I guess I get confused with what the Golden Hill and Golden, what do they call the other place where the other road is? Down here,
They call them both Golden Hill Road.
okay.
Yeah.
This,
Actually,
the
it's
one
my-
that's, the one that goes to Lenoxdale has no water line. I can tell you that for sure.
Not good.
I believe the utilities were brought up on the road that goes to Laurel Street and brought into the development there. And if they ever came out of that cul-de-sac, that I don't know. Water and sewer were brought into there.
From the west, Dave, you mean, from where it
From
says
Pinnacle, right
VMAS
here.
on the- Oh,
That's right, that one right there.
No, there's specific, if I may, Dave,
Yep.
there's specific language in the application plan. The water department does not want the water tied from Erskine Drive. They do not want what's called a flow through. It's in one of your documents. It is specifically written in by one of the original approvers. The water main will not be tied to Pinnacle.
And I'll only add that last summer I reached out to Harry Cunningham, Anthony Cunningham, who's done a lot of this project management and construction around the infrastructure on both of these projects. And I had asked if he could install an outdoor water source for me because I was planting some trees. And we never ended up doing it because we weren't able to get all the required parts. But he did point out a tie-in on my property where he at least asserted that the water was there and it was available. And he also made reference to a broken pipe during the project, maybe when they were doing the paving that flooded parcel 25 there. So I do believe there's water there somewhere. And I don't think that solves all the problems, certainly, but he seemed to believe it was available. But as far as that document's concerned, it makes assertions that are not completely true around all utilities, because
Of course, that piece that's broken, is that on your private property?
I'd have to ask Wayne Cunningham, but what he did, no, I think it was out on the street. It may have even been up the street a bit, but it was streaming down all onto a Golden Hill. And he ended up digging a trench of sorts, and he used my property to kind of drain it off until that pipe could be fixed.
Well, I was just thinking that'd be a way to verify if there's a water line up there, if it was a curb stop that got broke during paving. And a curb stop usually is on town property. They're on the dividing line between town property or the road and private property, so you can say you didn't pay your water bill. We can go and legally shut your water off.
Yeah.
If there was a way to, that, if you could dig down to it, and we're not gonna do it now because it's winter, but that would verify if the water's up.
Can I, Mr. Chairman, can I throw
Go ahead, sir.
a document up? Just so it's C2. I'm trying to put my camera. Is it 40?
Yeah, oh,
And can I show you the back? Just on the bottom for the waivers.
Harry, you're not sharing your screen as far as I can see.
yeah, I can't see. Yeah, he's just holding it up.
I'm holding it up. I'm sorry.
What are we looking at? You really can't see it.
Okay, it's form C2, the certificate of approval for the plan. And it lists waivers and so forth. I'm gonna try to get a better angle on the camera. You guys see that at all?
It's tiny. It's too
Yeah.
small to read.
Yeah, I will say these documents can be scanned and shared with the
Yeah.
town again.
Anyway, number 8, it says the board approved the following waivers. Determined these were in the public interest. I'll just go quickly. Location and alignment of the street with the proposed street, which is less than public way. Anyway, D is water line loop for the 2 subdivisions is not required. Not sure what exactly that means. Water line loop, 2 subdivision is not required. So
Doesn't it mean you need a well?
No,
I think they
No.
didn't, they didn't want him to tie it to the Pinnacle water line. I think that means. I'm not sure.
You know, I think that we should wait to discuss this till we get all the information in our hands.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because we're trying to, right now, it seems like we're guessing by God what's going on.
Yeah.
We appreciate it. So, you know, we appreciate the time you gentlemen have given us. I mean, this is something that we really need. And we know it's a lot of details and it involves a lot of paperwork. And
I'll tell you, Harry, though, the problem that we have, even if they lied to us on that one document,
okay.
about all our enforcement is to either rescind that or not give them any more permits, you know?
Or
Yeah.
refer it to the state's attorney.
We can do that, yep.
I think what you mentioned earlier, if we could get a state of status, or how, I forgot how we termed it.
Let's get all our documents
Well,
first. I'll talk to Beth.
Mr. Chairman, just as a suggestion, the DPW would be the first stop to find out about water lines and sewer. That has to be the first. I mean, they're the ones who approve that
If
stuff.
you guys
so,
can, if you want to reach out to them and get back to us,
Sure.
yeah, definitely
they can
contact
find.
Al. Al will do his homework and try to get that answer for you. I'm sure of it. And then, I mean, I would say the other one is SK Design.
Chris McCarthy, I think, can speak to that. He's been trying to deal with them for a few weeks, I believe.
I mean, they signed off on it, so if they signed
know,
off on it,
Yeah, my focus, and I think all of our focuses have been to prioritize these items. And number 1 is the Eversource installation. That's my focus. I haven't gone into the other matters that SK Design may have designed and stamped.
I was just thinking that they would have the location of if they signed off on it, they would have the location of the lines, I would think, and
They should.
they should.
Yeah,
I mean, that's what
they
they told us, so. And in the town, the DPW should have some inspection history.
At least a fee paid, a tie-in fee, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I would think, I mean, I would think that's yeah, that would be
But
my.
usually the tie-in fee doesn't happen until the building permit's issued.
Okay, all right.
That's right, that's true, yeah. But I mean, there's
Alright.
gotta be some,
Well, there's got to be a plan original, and if it was built,
Wait.
an as-built, in case they
Right.
moved anything.
right, and that's the other thing, the original developers had someone do it, do some of it. So, yeah, I can understand why it's confusing, but I would say DPW would have something down there.
Okay,
DPW should have the plans for the infrastructure, right?
Yeah, we have those, sir. We have those.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In fact, this is, well, I know we're on smaller screens now, but there's a smaller page presented to the planning board that's been signed by the whole board. And so they gave them to the board. I think there's 7 pages to them, and they're 3 feet by 2 feet.
that's the original plan?
Yeah, I think Chris McCarthy actually went to Tri-Town to get a copy of them.
Yeah, and in fact, I scanned it to a PDF, or it may have had to be broken in, but I can share that, a PDF of this definitive subdivision drawings, large format, and it includes the building lot plan, plan and profile, grading and erosion sediment control plan.
What year is that?
This is, I'm looking for the date on the stamp.
Lower right.
It's here somewhere, I know that. But
Mr. Chairman?
It's 06.
I think we're getting
06.
close to knowing where we need to be in the next.
Yeah, I think so.
I
think
think,
so.
here's what I suggest. I think I would suggest that we invite Mr. Fitzgerald to look into this and talk to us about what he's learned about the original plan. Somebody, maybe the people involved, can go talk to Public Works. And
Yep.
I think we should get a bundle of papers, some from Chris, some from Harry, some from Beth, and relevant papers, letters, plans in our packet for next meeting, and we can bring it up again.
Exactly.
Fitzgerald.
And we'll
Yep.
have that on the agenda for next meeting.
Yeah, I actually have a Dropbox where I've tried to put electronic copies of everything Harry's researched and gathered for us all. I could take one more look at it, but if someone could give me maybe an email.
I'd go
I could
through
spare
Beth
that.
on that. Beth Mead at planning board office.
Okay, sorry, the last name is?
Hold on, I'll get it for you. Hold on.
It's
It's
B
oh,
Mead,
okay, go ahead.
MEAD at town.lee.ma.us.
Town.lee, .ma or /ma?
.ma.us.
.us.
Yeah.
Okay, so I've got B Mead, BMEADE at.
No E.
town-
No,
oh,
no last
oh,
E.
yeah. Oh, D, okay, at town.lee.ma.us.
Yes.
Okay,
Okay.
yep, I will share a link to that folder, and anyone with that link should be able to look at all the documents that Harry's gathered for us.
Okay. I mean, let's try to get it organized. Start with the original subdivision plan probably, and go from there.
We really appreciate it, Mr. Chairman. This is something that we've been waiting for, to get some help on this.
Yeah.
And we really appreciate it because, you know, we were really frustrated. I want you to understand that maybe in some of the comments, we were really frustrated, especially through the last year.
I do.
I appreciate
And,
it. Thank you.
you know, but if they're all their, I mean, what really gets me is they were certified that all infrastructure was done, and it's not.
That was very confusing for us. And again, I was trying to reread it and see if it inferred Golden Hill was done. So that
Yeah.
lot was okay.
Yeah.
So we really appreciate it, and we'll look into it, and hopefully we can move on the electric with Chris McCarthy's efforts.
Yeah. And you guys have found no shut-offs, no nothing up there, huh? Walking the property?
They would be underground. One of the other lot owners was going up there, and we couldn't. The only thing we've located is there's a large junction cylinder in between lot 3 and 4, which is on the easement that runs up from Pinnacle. And we think the forced mains are, we're supposed to feed that down into Pinnacle.
Okay.
But we're not sure on that. The only thing we are sure on is the electric, that there are no wires.
That's not, well, that one's easy to see.
Yeah.
I mean, that means you need to get transformers there and then pull the wires, right, through everything?
Right.
Yeah, four transformers, and so the back and forth, it's about 18,000.
Mm.
But there's no easement, and they've been working on an easement for us for 10 months.
Okay.
Okay,
All right. Thank you, gentlemen.
okay,
We'll
thank
see
you
what
very
we can
much,
do.
sir.
Thank
We'll,
you.
we'll look.
Good luck.
All right, thank you.
Thank-
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Right.
Thank you for your patience.
Yeah, thanks all.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other business? I know we wanted to talk about some sign bylaws,
Oh,
but I'm not sure at this point, folks.
No, it's too late. I made an attempt to deal with some of the things that we've been talking about the last 6 to 8 months. And I sent you a draft of it. Peggy, you're laughing.
I know, it's like, oh, goodness gracious.
Is that an omen, Peg?
It's
I don't
past
know,
8
I
o'clock.
just-
You know,
You know me, it takes me after 8. I usually go, gosh.
All right, I won't take it as an omen. Anyway, I'd
Yeah.
like to talk about it sometime.
Oh,
And
definitely, we have to,
We-
Peter.
it doesn't
have-
include, the overnight rentals, the online rentals. But Buck and I have talked about that, and Buck, you're gonna take the lead on that, right?
yeah, I'll take some of that off your plate, yeah. But I'll be definitely conferring with you on it, with your,
But I've got stuff in there about the sign problem we had in July, and I've got stuff
Right.
about gas stations and
Good.
a variety of things. I look forward to talking with you about it. Not tonight.
okay. All right, thank you all. Until the 24th.
Okay,
Okay.
thanks. Thanks,
Move to
everybody.
adjourn.
Thank you.
See ya.
Yeah, thanks, everybody.
Night.